Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Christy Thompson and I am with BIS. Just a few housekeeping things. We're going to keep you muted during the presentation. At the end, we'll open it up for questions, but during the presentation as we go, feel free underneath the chat to chat us. We'll stop if we can and answer a few things, or we'll wait till the end to get to it. So thank you everyone for coming out today to talk about the hidden gems of QuickBooks to maximize efficiency. I'm going to introduce you to Phillip Long. If you've been on the webinars before, you know that Phillip is a technologist and entrepreneur who specializes in providing technology solutions and security consulting to businesses along the Gulf Coast. He's worked in the IT industry for over 18 years. He's the owner, 600 plus clients from Gulfport to Gulf Breeze, current owner of 5 businesses, and a certified information systems security professional. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Phillip.
Thank you very much, Christy, and I'd like to personally thank everybody for coming out and spending some time. We want to really focus, our time and make it the most meaningful, and we'll know a little bit more, about QuickBooks and who uses it percentage-wise, and really a whole lot of other things. So I'm really, happy and proud to present Brian Morris. He's a QuickBooks expert, been a pro advisor since 2002, and he is the first in the state of Arkansas to become an advanced certified QuickBooks Pro Advisor in 2007. So like you can see, Brandon's been around QuickBooks a really, really, really long time. He also has certifications in QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop Pro, Premier, also Enterprise, as well as QuickBooks Point of Sale. So Brandon pretty much is, all things QuickBooks. He really knows it, and I'd like to introduce him. Brandon, how are you today?
Hey, thanks, Phillip. Doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing well, man, and I appreciate you coming on, taking some time to do. When we spoke earlier, I know that you told me what percentage of small business uses QuickBooks. Do you remember that off the top of your head?
I do. The last count that I heard, or the last figure that I heard, was 84% of the small to medium-sized business market was using QuickBooks. Now that's kind of an old figure. So with the onset of QuickBooks Online, I feel like it's probably a little bit higher, but 84% was the last quote I had.
Yeah, that's really crazy. We've used it for, all 19 or so years that we've been in business. So it's really a product, and it's really come a long ways. Tell me about, just your startup. How'd you get into QuickBooks? You've been doing this since 2002, and that makes that, we started in 2001. So you've been at this for, 17 or 18 years, huh?
Yeah, it's been a while. It's funny. QuickBooks was kind of my ticket out of EMS. My former life was a paramedic, but the way that I got into it, I did have a background in hardware, software support. Worked for AT&T, NCR for a little while. Did Walmart POS systems, system support and dispatching for them. So I've got a little bit of background in some networking, some software, some POS systems, and we combined forces with my mother, who's a CPA, not in public practice, but she learned QuickBooks, and QuickBooks is not just accounting anymore. It is accounting on top of technology, on top of systems integration. So we combine forces to form Barron's. So it's a good tag team. We can, and we branched out. My daughter works with us part-time. She was also one of the youngest to be QBO certified. So that's been a good family business, and we've kind of grown since then.
Yeah, and that's really the take I got when we spoke earlier, about, family, and, you're talking a lot about, your satisfaction. You kind of have the go-giver mentality where, ultimately we want to perform and give more in services than we take in payments. So it really aligned a lot with kind of, my overall, what I want to do with my life and, how I want to impact others. So we really want to have you on, and we've had a great turnout. As many people as joined us has asked for the recording. So we gotta really deliver here. So let's go ahead and let's jump in and let's get moving on this thing. Some of the things that you often overlooked, and one of them is putting attachments into QuickBooks. Tell me kind of just basically how to do it, and then also tell me why you want to do it.
Number one is just for workflow, just to keep things moving. You don't want to be, when somebody's asking for a document, say proof of a receipt, proof of a document, or you're looking for, say, a document on an employee or a vendor. No matter what kind of document it is, I think probably one of the most underutilized things in QuickBooks is the ability to attach documents. By the way, document storage or document attachment is perfectly fine for the IRS. So once you scan a document into QuickBooks and you attach it to that document, if the IRS audits you, God forbid, they can go back and look at those records. You do not have to have the hard copy of that. So for instance, you've got employees, you need a copy of their driver's license, maybe a contract, or a vendor, you need their insurance information. You can attach those documents to the vendor or employee record. If it's a receipt or a bill, you can attach it to the receipt in the bill in QuickBooks. So you scan it, you attach it in QuickBooks, there's a document storage folder attached to it. There's also third-party attachments that you can use, but natively in QuickBooks, you have that document storage, and it works like a champ.
Yeah, that's really interesting to know. I might have to check with Lori, our accountant here, and see. I bet we don't use that. That's probably something we're missing out on. And again, I like the thought of centralizing documents and kind of the, if you touch it once kind of philosophy. So is there any kind of file limitation sizes or anything that off the top of your head that come into play here? Anything that you say, it won't work for this, or any kind of gotchas?
No, not to my knowledge. We've never run into an issue. Now, if you're doing a lot of storage, a lot of documents, I mean, paperless offices was all the rage over the last couple of years. There are third-party solutions and there are scanners I'm sure that you guys have had access to, but if you want to drop a stack of papers into a scanner and have it scan all of that, then if you're going to start doing a lot of it, then we probably want to start looking at some third-party integrations. But as far as document size, the only thing you really have to worry about is your hard drive size. Just make sure you've got enough room to store all of the documents you're going to be attaching to those records.
Yeah, that makes sense too. I think another thing too, just speaking about like scanning, a lot of times, you go out to Walmart or whatever and you buy the little scanner, it natively wants to scan at a very high resolution, like possibly 1200 by 1200 color DPI. And, I could basically scan a piece of paper and I could make it, 100 megs, or I could scan it and make it 10K, which
absolutely.
For those that aren't into file sizes, there's an exponential difference because of the way it's scanned. You probably want to set a scanner for black and white documents. Be sure it's black and white for this kind of work. Normally, you want to set it for, I don't know, we usually say 250 DPI, maybe 200 dots per inch DPI, and be sure it's black and white, just kind of to throw that out there. So we'll move on. We'll keep talking about some other hidden gems because we really have a lot of them. Now, custom fields, and how do you see, I think everybody kind of understands a custom field would be something that you would make inside the software to be able to put in certain types of data. I would suspect you could, do drop down, make lists. Is that true?
That is true. Now, it also depends on, the title of this is generally QuickBooks. So when we talk about QuickBooks, just know there's a huge difference between QuickBooks Online Simple Start and QuickBooks Enterprise for desktop. So yes, you can do drop downs in Enterprise, or you can do very limited custom fields in like QuickBooks Desktop Pro or QuickBooks Online Simple Start or Essentials. So when we're talking about custom fields, you've got a lot more kind of customization in QuickBooks Enterprise. But I put probably 90% of our small to medium-sized business customers on QuickBooks Pro Premier. But as far as custom fields, it can be almost anything. You can have custom fields attached to customers, vendors, employees, items. Some that off the top of my head are will track birthdays. I've got a franchise that we use, and we track birthdays because they do tutoring. So, and they want to run a birthday card list at the beginning of the month. So the key is getting the uniform, doing the dates the same way every time. So month, day, day, year, however you want to do that. You can run a report based on those custom fields, and then they know who to send birthday cards to on what date. There's also, where did you hear about us? So referrals, was it Google? Was it word of mouth? Was it a certain keyword? So like you and I talked about a little bit about what is your customer's worth? What was the average lifetime value of a customer? So tracking that using custom fields. And then there's also tracking items. So maybe you want to track attributes of an item. So the cool thing about custom reports is anything that you put in there, you can get a report on those custom fields.
Exactly.
And yeah, I think it's probably one of the, probably all of these I'm going to say are the most underutilized pieces of QuickBooks. It's so much more than an accounting system.
Yeah, you know, we also own a marketing company, and one of the things that I spoke with one of our social media marketing, the manager who's actually preparing the material is trying for us to go out to clients and say, hey, you know, put a code in there, and to say for this offer, ask for October special or October 1, 2, 3 or something, and this would be a great way to be able to justify or to track how much actually is that marketing, what kind of return on investment are you getting for that marketing, or how did the person find it. Can you make those fields where they're mandatory to be filled out? Like say you're going to put in a new customer or you're going to do that. I would imagine you can do that where it's mandatory, so you could force staff to kind of follow along a specific process.
Not typically mandatory in custom fields. If you are going to do class tracking, that you can force that. Class tracking, while you could do something like that in class tracking as far as tracking source, something like that. The class tracking is more of a departmental or maybe a location or something like that. So there's a lot of uses for classes, but custom fields are not typically mandatory. Certainly you can know with an audit report, you can see who filled what information out or left out what information. So you could always go back to the person that put that particular record into QuickBooks and say, hey, why didn't you do this? So we can know who's logged in, who filled out what, and go back to them and hold them accountable. But to force the custom field, we can't do that.
Gotcha. That's good stuff, though. And that sounds like one limitation between the online product. Just in general, while we kind of touched on the online product, I would say that the experience, or it's not quite as powerful as, say, the desktop. I know they've made huge strides in it because I signed a client up for it that had a very simple accounting system, and we went through and was looking at the chart of accounts, and I drove around in it a little bit. We use the enterprise on premise. What's the differences just in a top level? Who is the online good for, and who is it not good for? Maybe you could say that in just a couple minutes.
Yeah, sure. So online is great for startups, and actually, I mean, we've got one of our partners that just put a huge attorney firm on it. So we've got QuickBooks Online Simple Start all the way up through QuickBooks Online Advanced. Online Advanced is the newest product out. It's for the mid-size to enterprise-size client. So we can go over 150 chart of accounts, so over 150 accounts. That's what we put them on. So from the very bottom, very basic, a startup, just a brand new. And the cool thing is, there is a self-employed app out there, QuickBooks Online Self-Employed. It does not convert natively, so that's important. So if you want to start and you're planning on growing your business, as is most people, you don't want to start with self-employed. You want to start with the simple start. That way you can go up if you want essentials, or plus if you need to add, say, 1099 vendors, things like that. So you can really you could use either platform. Will take a company all the way up through, but I will say that QuickBooks Online is just not the product that the desktop is. So Pro, Premier, and Enterprise is not. It's all the bells and whistles are not there yet, but it's coming along, and it's coming along quickly.
Yeah, got you. Good. Let's talk a little bit about using color coding checks and QuickBooks accounts. How would you use that that color coding, and how's that going to benefit and gain efficiencies?
Yeah, so this is probably one of the simplest little QuickBooks hacks that we've used from day one. In QuickBooks, when you go into a checking account, and a lot of businesses, they'll have multiple checking accounts. Maybe they've got one for accounts payable, maybe they've got one for general checking, maybe they've got one for payroll. The problem that a lot of people get when they get their checks is they're all the same color and they get mixed up. They'll end up paying payroll out of the general account instead of the payroll account, or something to that effect. So in QuickBooks, you can color code your checks. So you could make the general checks, say, navy blue. You could make payroll green. So you can, when you order your checks, you can order your checks in multiple different colors. So you could have all your checks that you got for payroll. You could have them printed in green. So when you go to print your payroll checks, when you see QuickBooks on your screen, those payroll checks are going to be green. When you're just looking at that, when you're developing, when you're getting your payroll checks ready to print, and you notice the color on there that's green, you know that you need to be looking for green checks when you load your printer, if you're going to be printing them and not doing direct deposit. Same thing applies to the general account or accounts payable. You want to make sure that the color of your checks on the screen and QuickBooks match up with the checks that you're picking up out of your drawer or wherever you're going to load your check stock from into your printer.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah,
it's such an easy task, but it seems like the easy things sometimes are the most overlooked. And the number of times that I've had to walk a customer through going and changing the check numbers or changing this or that in QuickBooks because of, I don't want to say dumb little errors, but it's just often really easily overlooked.
Yep, I like it. All right, we'll move on to number 4 here. What about using Quick Report? How is that a tool that'll basically save time and effort?
Yeah, so Quick Report, if you could, so a lot of people don't know about this. The Quick Report, if you go into any customer, any vendor, any transaction, or even a report, if you see a little magnifying glass, you can double click. That'll pull up a quick report on that particular transaction or that dollar amount. If you've got a customer, a vendor, or an employee highlighted, and you do a Control Q in QuickBooks, that will pull up the quick report. That will pull up everything that you want to know about that transaction, about that dollar amount, or about that employee. So a very quick way to start drilling down if you're looking for a specific transaction. It makes it super easy, and a lot of people don't know about it. So when we're talking about trying to maximize efficiency, and you don't want to hunt and peck for a particular transaction or something like that. That's the easiest way to start drilling down into the details of a particular person or item or transaction. That's probably one of the quickest ways to do that, other than a Control F, an advanced find or something like that.
Yeah, we use that quite often. Just, we're doing comparisons on year, and you want to figure out, why is this year, twice as much or half as much as the year before. Right mouse click, go to quick report. Then you can even double click on the transaction level and see the actual, the transaction, which is really, really, really a cool feature. We do use that, and it is very time saving and quick. One thing I always say, and I've said this, and actually, one of these days I'm going to try to solve it in my own life. I honestly believe that, as humans, and I think all of us in the business world, we're like 25% over capacity, most of us. And if we could slow down 25%, I bet we'd probably make more money and have a better lifestyle. So maybe I'm gonna have to get over there, and I don't work in QuickBooks every day, so you're not gonna be the guy. I got somebody that does that for me, but maybe I could solve that problem with sending Lori over to your place, and maybe I could solve it in somebody else's life first, and then maybe somebody could solve it for me. But I don't know. Sorry, I hit the wrong way. Let's talk a little bit about this next one here. I've never even heard of this. QBox. What the heck is that?
It's funny. This is probably the best kept secret, and I make hardly any money on this, but I use it in the office. I'm going to back up real quick what you said a while ago. There are things that since you're not the actual QuickBooks user, you've got somebody that does that for you. A lot of times, having that person and the business owner or managers having a group meeting and talking about ways that we can simplify procedures. There's things that you do in the business, the expenses and things that we can automate for other businesses that would kind of blow. Even though you don't use QuickBooks, you could free up her time so easily. So I just want to throw that out there. So QBox is really, it's a cloud-based system that takes a QuickBooks desktop file, and it shares it from your local desktop, whoever's running QuickBooks on a daily basis. Once they log out of QuickBooks, it takes that QuickBooks data file, it uploads it to the cloud, and then it shares it with whoever you want to share it with. So if you've got other business owners, if you've got maybe a CFO that's outside, maybe a CPA, maybe a bookkeeper that's not in-house, you can share it with unlimited people. Right now, I think it's like $12 a month, but it takes away the need to make an accountant's copy for your CPA, because you can share it with the CPA. They've got direct access to the local file. The local file is saved on their desktop as well as yours. So if they log in after you get out, then they can make changes. When they get out, it uploads it back to the server, and then it distributes among all the shared population that you've shared that with. So it takes away the need for, say, remote desktop, log me in, team viewer, all of that that's really clunky, especially if you're trying to do a big project. So everybody's got a local installation of QuickBooks, of your QuickBooks data file on their system. So I've got it on my laptop, I've got it on my desktop. My business partner, my mother, has got it on her laptop, her desktop. So anybody can have access to that file that needs it at any given time.
All right, something scares me. What about getting out of sync? Is it a one-way kind of deal?
It is a one-way kind of deal. So if I'm logged into QuickBooks, and let's say I've given you access, Philip, you can get in. You can have read access only while I'm logged into it. But until I get out of it, you can't do anything. Now, let me reiterate. Well, let me back up. It does take some education. So if I'm going to put you on QBox, you're going to know for sure by the time I get done with you, you're going to get pop-ups saying, hey, you're in read-only mode. If you make any transactions, they're going to be lost when you log out. And then you have to click that notification to get out. So to make sure that you understand that. So
Gotcha.
I can have it locked, and you can go in and have read access. You can run reports. You can look at history, whatever you need to do. Just don't make any changes to it.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Yeah, this really is something. I was at my daughter plays volleyball, and I was cooking fish last night for kind of fundraising for the volleyball team, and my accountant was there, and I was talking to him while I was cooking, and he was talking about really, just the access that he has to client office, basically client computers, in order for
Sure.
him, because of the challenge for a lot of business owners getting them that file. A lot of times it's too big to email. Yeah, you don't want to
Yep.
just email it in clear text without securely doing it. This would be a real solution. And also, I'll say this, because having those persistent connections, like the the team viewer, the Zoho Assist, the whatever, the one that well, coming up a blank, but all those remote control tools, they all have a very, without two-factor authentication, you're allowing somebody to have a persistent connection into your network that is very dangerous from a security perspective. And this sounds
Right.
like a way that you could achieve that without allowing the security vulnerability from your accountant getting in the office. So that's something definitely I'm going to learn more about, just from a consultative, knowledge to share with clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Your CPA and bookkeeping offices will love it. We get from the CPAs that we work with, if they run an in-house bookkeeping team, every time they get a new client, they're calling me saying, "Hey, put this client on it. We need it." So, and in addition to that functionality, they also have redundant backup. So, if I think they keep, I want to say it's 10 backups. So if you realize, say, 3 backups ago, or 3, maybe you've been in and out of that file 2 or 3 times, you can go back 3, 4, 5 times and go back to before you made the major screw up in QuickBooks. So it works very, very well.
Quick
Sure.
question that just came in. Does each QBox user need a QuickBooks user license?
So the way that QuickBooks works is simultaneous users. So if I bought QuickBooks and I wanted you to have access to it, or then I would have to so I would have to reference the end user license agreement for Intuit. But the way that a lot of customers do it is, if I bought QuickBooks Desktop, say Pro, I could give you my license, you could install it, because you're going to be the only user accessing it at that time. You can't make changes to it at the same time I am. So that's the way a lot of people do it. Now, whether that violates the end user license agreement, don't quote me on that, because I'd have to go back and look. But that's the way that I know that some of our users are doing that. So they do have to have QuickBooks installed on each individual location in order to open, obviously, that QuickBooks file.
But that is a great thing, like for the business owner who, quite frankly, Lori doesn't want me in my QuickBooks. You know what I'm saying? She would only want me to have read-only access, just
Right.
because, for that kind of scenario where it's like, look, I don't mind you looking all day long, but don't you change a dang thing. That would work, as well as for, maybe even accountants and stuff.
Now,
So.
yeah, and you could actually set that permission as well in QBox. I believe that you can give them read-only access, not edit rights. So if you want to let somebody log in and take a look, then you can do that, and then keep Phillip out of it if you need to, because business owners are the worst person to be in the books.
That's right. I need to read reports only and ask questions. Don't worry, I learned that a long time ago, buddy. I've made my mistakes, and I've paid for them and learned from them, moved on. So, all right, well, good. That's really interesting. Like I said, I never knew about that. Let's talk about the Control F feature.
Yep, Control F or Find. Most people know Control F in a Windows environment, but it is also in QuickBooks. So there's a simple find and there's an advanced find. The coolest part about the advanced find if you start filling out, say, custom fields or using the memo field in a lot of transactions, anything that you fill out in QuickBooks is searchable. So most people don't take advantage of this function. We've got a countertop customer that they've got all these kind of funky colors and designs that they can do, and they will put the design or the color in the memo of the job when they do that. So when they get a customer come in, and they take a lot of pictures. So when they get a customer come in and say, I would really like to see what that looks like. When they get done with a job that's got this unique color, this unique design, they will put that memo in there. And it's important for it to be kind of a uniform identifier. That way they can go in and they can search on whatever that design is. So using the memo fields and using that Control F to go in and find transactions, or maybe you want to find everything that well, in our case, maybe we want to find everybody that has bought QuickBooks Enterprise, or we'll say QBES. That's what we call QuickBooks Enterprise. So if we want to do a search for QBES, then it'll pull up every transaction that's got that in the memo field or that in the notes field. So using the notes or any kind of field that's in QuickBooks to your benefit. Most people don't know that those fields are searchable, but so anyway, that's what we use that for the most. Now, obviously, you can search for specific dollar amounts and things like that, but where we use it and find that we can speed up transactions and things like that is looking for specific data.
Yeah, I like it. What about, and you may have said this, and I wasn't clear. Will this also search custom fields?
I believe that it will. Yes.
Yeah, that would, I could see how a custom field, we're really into custom fields because I think as a business matures, and I think, I'm sure there's varying degrees of companies and kind of the way that I think, and I think it's important to understand this. When I heard this, it meant a lot to me, so I'm going to share like the way I have lived out businesses, throughout my life. Basically, you kind of start off in what we call muscle and feel. You're working 20 hours a day. That may be an exaggeration, but for me, it probably wasn't for a while there. And you're working your butt off. You're just swimming and stroking just as hard as you possibly can. And then that's kind of the startup phase. And then after that, you kind of go to managing what looks right. You failed enough and what doesn't look right. It does look right, so you're managing to that level, and then kind of the third level or third stage of business is where you are, you have processes and procedures, and you're following those, you're documenting everything, and you're kind of following those, and then finally you get into that what we call leading towards legacy, where ultimately you have appointed. This 2019 for me was delegate, elevate, and automate. That was my theme for 2019, and I've made some good strides in that area where basically I have really focused on the delegation portion of my task, elevating the persons and the people so they have no more than 8 people on their team, and some things that we've done that really have helped me. And I really wish somebody would have sat me down a long time ago and said, hey, man, here's some things you probably ought to think about. So I'll just share that with everybody. If anybody ever wants to talk about that, I'd love to talk to you about some of the things that I've discovered, kind of getting to that level. I met with a client actually a week and a half ago, and the guy is so sharp and been in business like under 2 years, and this dude has almost every process already documented in this business, and that is so rare from what I've seen. So I'll be quiet and get us moving on here, but I thought I'd share that. Let's talk about GoPayment. That's another thing I've not heard of.
And a lot of people haven't. Is probably again another well-kept secret. Most people know of Square, right?
Yep.
Or Square Payments. It's that little thing that dongle or that attachment that you can attach to your phone or iPad and swipe to get your payments. QuickBooks has the same thing. The coolest thing about it to me is it works across all the QuickBooks platforms. So if you've got a QuickBooks desktop or a QuickBooks online account, but you're out and about and you need to receive a payment, you can use GoPayment and it syncs directly back into your QuickBooks account. So when you go to make a deposit, then as soon as that hits, it knows that you're waiting for the funding for that payment because it's going to download that transaction directly into QuickBooks or QuickBooks Online. The same thing applies to QuickBooks point of sale. So if you've got inventory and say you want to go do a sidewalk sale or you want to go do, Loda art walk, if you want to take some paintings out with you or some kind of art or say jewelry with you, you can mark mobile in point of sale on your items, and it knows that you're out and about and you're selling those. So when you sell that, it also synchronizes your inventory along with those payments. So across the whole platform, if you use GoPayment, you can synchronize that directly with your accounting software, and it works seamlessly. It is another well-kept secret. In addition, your rates are a little bit cheaper than Square, so you're saving money and you're getting the integration along with it if you're already using QuickBooks. We can definitely save you some money there, but most people don't know that it works across all the platforms and it synchronizes directly.
Gotcha. So ultimately, and this is a direct Intuit type product, right?
It is an Intuit product, very similar to Square, where Square's got their own point of sale system. We've got our own point of sale system, and it all integrates seamlessly. Yes.
Yeah, got it. Like it.
It's also Bluetooth. So if you're trying, the Bluetooth scanners are out there. They've got Apple Pay. It's all PCI compliant. So you're not dealing with anything like that. I know that there's a number of different processing platforms out there. Chris messaged me and said, "Oh yeah, remember it's Bluetooth as well." So Chris is our sales guy. We'll get you'll talk to him if you inquire about any of our services. But this is, like I said, one of the best kept secrets. We use it for farmers markets, anybody that does outside sales outside of the office and wants to take payments and or synchronize their inventory.
Hey, let me ask you a question. This isn't something we actually do, but I have a lot of clients that say an AC AC company,
Sure.
and they're running. Say they got QuickBooks on the back end, and it's a desktop version. You know, it's a on premise. You know, it's on their server at their office. Would this still work?
It's perfect. Absolutely. So they can get the GoPayment if they don't already have the account. And with the installer or the mechanic is out there, they fixed or they went to do whatever their job was to do. If they want to go ahead and collect payment right then via credit card, then they can swipe that with the Bluetooth credit card swiper with whatever hardware they've got. So iOS, Android, doesn't matter. They can swipe that and take the payment right there. It will on the back end go directly into the QuickBooks system that they've got. In addition, I'll throw this out there, but we've also got a field service management that integrates seamlessly with QuickBooks as well. It's made by Corrigo, but for the field service management people that are out there, it's a great system for those HVAC, electricians, things like that. People that have warranties for those systems. And anyway, it does all that field service management, but it ties in directly with the accounting system and with QuickBooks payments and GoPayment.
Okay, and just this selfish because I actually I'm vetting some products for an air conditioning company. It'll manage assets and all that stuff, recurring schedules and all that.
Absolutely.
We're going to catch up after this.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll do the scheduling. It'll let you know where you're at on any given project. If it's on hold, waiting for parts, it'll track your service repairmen. All of that, clock in and clock out, everything you need for a practice like that.
Cool. All right, great. That's very interesting. We're going to catch up on that. All right, let's talk about memorized transactions. And right now we are at 55% complete, and we spent about 65% of our time. So we got to speed up. I want to be real nice to our guests.
Absolutely.
That's my fault as much as Yeah, anybody.
Yeah, great for anybody that does routine tasks over and over and over. Maybe it's weekly, maybe it's monthly or quarterly. If you're having to recreate invoices or receipts for those customers or recurring transactions, like say it's payments, merchant service payments, things like that, all of that stuff can be memorized. So you create it, you memorize it, you tell QuickBooks, I want to do this every quarter or every 2 weeks. Then what's going to happen, you can have it automatically create that transaction, or it can remind you, you tell it what you want to do. That saves the repetitive task of having to recreate that invoice every single week or every single quarter. So you can have that invoice automatically populate. We do that. We'll populate an invoice. We'll memorize it every month, and then we'll memorize the payment. So that way we've got the invoice in the system and the payment in the system. It automatically matches up. So we automate as much as possible. That way we don't have to have that redundant data entry.
Absolutely. I love that. Let's talk about editing and adding things out of Excel, basically importing into Excel using that feature.
Yeah, the most laborious task in QuickBooks is if you have to go edit, say 100 items, or you've got 100 new items, no matter whether service items, inventory item, whatever it is going and one by one putting those items in there, those service item, whatever it is. You can open your item list, and then if you go down and click on the drop down, you can go to Add Edit Multiple. It pulls up a spreadsheet looking item, so you can copy out of Excel and paste into the Add Edit Multiple, and it makes it really, really easy to get a large amount of data into QuickBooks quickly. Same thing for if you want to go and just say, if you need to do the same thing, you can right click and Add Edit Multiple and say copy down. So if it's the same, say, color item or whatever the column is, you can copy down. Anyway, it simplifies the transactions very, very easily, and you can get a large amount of data done quickly.
Sounds like something to look into for also I could see it for one of the things whenever we use QuickBooks as our basically where we did transactions in, it was terrible in that basically one person called it a Dell PowerEdge server, and the next call called it a PowerEdge Dell server. And we had all kind of messes where if we'd have had this, that would have been really handy for us to kind of keep the inventory more uniform.
Absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about pricing. What's best pricing from a QuickBooks solution provider? This sounds like a sales pitch here, buddy. What you got?
Yeah, it was a little shameless plug, but if you go look at pricing on Intuit or you're shopping around, Intuit offers their pricing. They've got so many different ways to get their products and services out there. The best pricing you're going to find is through a QuickBooks solution provider. That's me, but there's 240 of me. So wherever, if you want somebody local, then if you need help finding that person, let me know. You can always go out and look. Most people don't know a QuickBooks solution provider, or QSP, even exists, or a Pro Advisor. Pro Advisor is somebody that's certified on the product. They don't generally have as good a pricing as a solution provider does, but it does prove that they've got the certification in QuickBooks. So the best pricing you're going to get typically is through a QuickBooks solution provider. And I'll just tell you, I mean, a lot of people ask me, hey, can I get Pro through you? Yeah, you can get QuickBooks Pro through me. Sometimes you're going to get a better price through Sam's Club or Costco. Honestly, but if you're looking for more than that, and I can price match. So, and any QSP can. So if you're, we do appreciate taking those sales through our channel. But anyway, if you're looking for pricing, if you're really just cost conscious, and a lot of startups are, look for a QSP and ask them for the best price.
Yeah, I got you. And I mean, I just was picking on you, but I mean, yeah, absolutely. I like to me personally, some of the licensing stuff is getting more and more complicated, and even moving between, oh, your database has reached a certain size, now you got to go to enterprise. Having a guy like you on the horn and being able to walk me through that and stand behind it if I pick the wrong thing and help me out and save me money. Hey, that's not a shameless plug, buddy. That's providing value to the business community. So we
It
appreciate
is.
that.
And there are also, I mean, if you think that you need to move to enterprise because you're having performance problems in Pro or Premier, a lot of times it's just it's a hardware, it's a hard drive thing. Sometimes if your database file fragments, which I know that's Greek to most people, but if that's out of control in QuickBooks, we can fix that, and you don't need to upgrade. So we'll keep you on the same product. I mean, just like you, if you go in, you find out, hey, what you thought was wrong is not really it. What I know is next time you need something, you're going to call me if I can save you money on the front end.
That's right. Yeah, that's my game, is I'm just going to continue to do the right things, and the bank account will take care of itself. That's what I truly believe, and it's I've been proving that to myself for 20 years. So, and I believe that very much about you and really your whole outfit. Hey, one other thing, let's talk about, this is huge right now. I mean, I don't know if everybody saw 3 Tuscaloosa hospitals got hit with ransomware today. They're not taking patients. It's a mess. So security and money and all the stuff we keep in QuickBooks. How secure is QuickBooks? What are they doing to combat that, that challenge?
Yep. So it really depends on the product. Obviously, if you're using QuickBooks Online, that's a software as a service, and they keep the servers there. They use VeriSign, 128-bit SSL security, which is, I know, Greek to most people. It's not to you. So as far as uptime, their servers are always online, but as far as security, it's the same basic security that you've got with most banks. As far as merchant service, you're looking at PCI compliance fees obviously apply with us as well. With QuickBooks Desktop, when you put in payment information, it truncates on the local installation. QuickBooks servers, Intuit servers, keep that information if you've memorized it in your file. That way, if you need to process a credit card again for a customer, they've got it. But all the same PCI compliance laws apply to each individual business. But yeah, as long as you take care of security on your end, you've got pretty much banking industry, as good as that is, banking industry security standards on everything else as far as Intuit's concerned.
Let me ask you, on the online version, do they have 2-factor or MFA, multi-factor authentication?
Yes, and I say yes, and so that's still a little bit Greek to me. Technology, I'm coming on board, but yes, when you go log in your QuickBooks Online account, if there's any possible way that it doesn't recognize you, then it will send you a text message or email you for that authentication. So yes, they have been implementing that. I think it's probably across the board now.
Yeah, I would believe so. That's a big thing, guys. For everybody on the call, it's huge. If you've got what I call a one-to-many, which is basically where you log in with one set of credentials and you have access to many records or many instances of personal identifiable information, you absolutely must have 2-factor authentication. And when I say not so much maybe for inside the office, but I'm talking about things that you could log in from at home, web-based application, cloud-based application. The time's passed. There's so many little tools out there that are scamming usernames and passwords, and then you will get whacked. It's just a matter of time. So you want to definitely, we can talk offline on that, but that's something worth mentioning.
It definitely, and Phil, I'll just say that's I love people like you that are security conscious. What I love about IT professionals that are security conscious, once I go in, if I want to set up a network, if I want, say, a 10-user ES or even 20 users or whatever, I want to make sure that network is secure. When I go in, I'm the world's worst, and that's why I want IT providers there. is I'll open up a network so I can connect all the QuickBooks together, but I want to make sure when I leave that the IT professional knows that I've been there and I might have screwed something up as far as security. So I want to work with people like you to make sure that happens. So the networking and protecting that network is huge to us, and I know it is to you.
It really is. I'll make one more mention of like backups too. You want to be sure that you have an automated backup that does not require user intervention. You don't want anything that's going to require somebody to have to do it. Don't, if you own a company and you're saying, oh yeah, Sally, she backs up every time she uses it. Trust me, she doesn't. And you're at risk. And also there's what we call an air gap is the term in backups. You want to have a backup that is not it has an air gap, and I'll give you an example of what is not an air gap. If you have a USB external hard drive plugged into a machine and you keep it plugged in and you back up to it, anything that could affect the primary machine could also affect your backup. I've been on site after site with this ransomware where the backup's been encrypted just like the primary data, and you're basically out of luck as far as getting that retrieved. That same type of, you talked about the SSL and the encryption used in that. That's the same type of encryption that the bad guys are using, and it's very effective. Without the key, you're not going to get the data. So that's something very, very, very important to keep in mind. So,
Really quick, Philip, another just to add value to that. Yes, the automated backup is huge, but you need to make sure that you're doing a manual backup of QuickBooks pretty regular, because we've got a TLG file in the background. If you're not doing manual backups, that log is getting bloated. It's causing system performance in QuickBooks. I've seen that too many times. The IT guy says, yes, it's backing up, I promise, but it's not taking care of the local file. So knowing that that's a thing can save somebody a huge amount of money and problems in the long run.
Yeah, that's where they're telling you to go to QuickBooks Enterprise, and that's some of that kind of garbage that comes in because you're not basically managing the database. Is that accurate?
It is, but that happens in Pro, Premier, and Enterprise. The Enterprise is actually where I learned that particular problem. It was hosted on I think a 7 or 8 user environment, Enterprise, on a server, and they were just not doing the backups like the manual QuickBooks backup. That what it does is it strips the log out. It takes care of all the nuts and bolts behind the scenes. So just backing up the server and the individual file is not good enough. We need to be doing a manual backup of the QuickBooks file itself.
Cool. Well, listen, we've appreciate you so much coming on. This has been so good. And I always ask the question, anytime I invest time, money, anything, energy into something, I always want to have, I want to determine whether something needs to be actionable. And, one of the things that, I think we should ask ourselves, what do we really want to do? And Brandon has been so kind to give everybody on the call, and even the guys that are actually, Brandon, you'd be surprised. There's probably as many people as on the call. Actually, there's more that have asked for the recording. It's crazy, which of course with technology, it's nice. But tell us about this offer that you're going to offer everybody on this call.
Man, across the board, we wanted to give you guys the best prices we could do. So QuickBooks Online, 30-day free trial always. That's always. But as one of the things that we can do is 50% off for 12 months. So starting off at $10 a month, I think that's going to be for your simple start. Chris is also on this. So Chris at baronsinc.net. He's our sales manager, but he put this together for us. But so QuickBooks Online, 30-day free trial, 50% off for 12 months. And it really depends on what product you need. QuickBooks Pro and Premier, willing for your listeners, I'll give you our cost. We're not going to make a dime off of that. Just we want the sales to come through us. Now we're obviously going to try to upsell you, but we're not into high pressure sales at all. If you need the product, great. If you need the service, great. We don't do high pressure sales. QuickBooks Enterprise, 20% off for the life of the software. So if you go and price QuickBooks Enterprise, then whatever price you see, we're going to take 20% off of that. That's a deal you can only get through a solution provider or a pro advisor. Obviously, we want you to use us, but just so you know that that's out there. And the current promo, and sometimes we can do QuickBooks. The Intuit offers us different promos, but right now their promo is buy one get one free on the point of sale and 2 free pen pads. Those are $350 a piece. That's with a payments account, obviously. But anyway, so that's all the promos that we've got. If you've got a need, let us price it. We're not going to high pressure sell you. If you need something, let us know, and we'll put a quote together, and we'll go from there.
Let me ask you a question. Like, for instance, we got to re-up our subscription every so often. I don't even know where we are, how we are. Could I come to you and you could do that for me?
Absolutely.
Could you, like, if I think there's like a perpetual, you pay so much and you can update all the time kind of thing. Do you offer those too?
We do offer those. So what you're going to see on a desktop is Pro or Premier Plus. That is a perpetual. Honestly, it's good. It's got its advantages. You get always the latest, greatest. But if you're looking for saving money, so you can pay by the month, and you get data protect, so you do get the backup of QuickBooks. I've spent more time getting people off of Pro and Premier Plus. You don't have to upgrade, but every 3 years, even if you're running payroll and merchant service, they sunset is what they call it. They're every 3 years their software. So I upgrade most of our customers their Pro if they're using 2016. I'll upgrade them in 2019 just to keep them updated. And that saves them the most money as long as possible, and keeps them happy with me. So yes, we do have all of the products available, but that's what we normally do, and that's the reason I don't advertise Pro Plus or Premier Plus. But I'd be glad to have a conversation about any of that.
Yeah. Okay. And then I was going to throw something out there too. Right now we're so focused on security. I can't watch anything you can't watch the news, can't read the paper. Like I say, Tuscaloosa got hit. 3 major hospitals hit today with ransomware. We're offering a free, it's really a cybersecurity starter pack that we'll offer clients on the call, where we're going to do a dark web scan report. Kind of out of time. I'm not going to dig in too much. Just ping me, because I want to open it up for questions too, where we're going to also do simulated phishing emails. 95% of risk is coming from our people. We need to check and see where our weak links are. Also, cybersecurity training for the entire staff. If you're in a compliance industry like HIPAA, this is required. You got to do an annual training. This would suffice for you, as well as network evaluation. Kind of looking at that, where you're strong, where you're weak, and kind of coming up with a gap analysis. Also, a one-page technology roadmap. Where I see most clients really struggle is the fact that they don't have a map. They don't know where they're going, and they wait. I mean, I'm literally working with a client right now, and he had no clue that Server 2008 was into life in January, and he's got a bunch of this stuff, and he's fixing to spend a lot of money. And if he would have been a client of mine, I'd have been telling him this probably 16 months ago. So that's good value for you. So it's free for everybody on the webinar, but we'd like to get, before about mid-October, we want to get this done. We don't want to keep this offer open forever. All you have to do to get this offer is send an email to events@AskBIS for really either one of us, or you could send it directly to Chris Chris at baronsinc.com. Chris, what was his email?
.net. It's I'll send it to you in the chat as well.
Okay.
But yeah, Chris at baronsinc.net. BARONSINC.net.
Yeah. Well, let's see, Christy, is there any questions out there? Anybody put any questions in the chat?
Yeah. First question, is Brandon available for some professional services consulting to review our setup and advise staff how to get the most out of it?
Absolutely. I can do that either on site or I can do it online. We use GoToAssist, so we can log into your system. But yes, I'd be happy to, for most people, wherever you're located, obviously within reason. Otherwise, it'd be travel fees. But yes, absolutely.
We had another one. Also, can he consult the QuickBooks, SDK, and custom integrations?
Yes, we can do that. We're working with somebody right now, actually doing a custom install right now, custom API integration with QuickBooks and a third-party solution, and doing a POS conversion. So yes, we do that kind of thing all the time. We work with several developers.
Great.
Yeah, I'll tell you from my standpoint, and I want to be able to help people. And as a rule, we help with support and all that with, but we're not accountants. We're IT professionals. We build platforms that QuickBooks runs securely on and well on. So having you guys around is really a comfort for me, so that I got somebody I can go to. And even, like I say, even managing licensing, I'd love to be able to point my clients to you and say, hey, buy your licenses. He'll tell you whenever you really, really, really need to upgrade, and he'll say you a good price, and he'll remind you. That's very, to me, that's very attractive, to be able to have you guys and say, yeah, these guys will hook you up. And if you need some consulting, and probably really everybody, I mean, I'm even thinking about some things I'd like you to look at in our system, just to know, even if it's just a few hours.
We had another question come in. How can I get in touch with Brandon to purchase the online version for 25 users?
You can call me direct or call Chris direct or email. So 479-641-1055 is our main number. My direct number is 479-880-6762, or Chris at baronsinc.net, BARONSINC.net, or Brandon at baronsinc.net as well. Be happy to take care of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if y'all send anything to events, we'll forward it straight to the guys. So events at AskBIS is up on the screen. If you send something, we'll pass it right along.
Another question, does he do training on QuickBooks?
He does.
Good deal. Okay. And we're going to be sending out a recording tomorrow, so we'll make sure to include Brandon and their information, so you can reach out to him directly as well.
Yeah, that is great.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys, especially. Y'all have been really wonderful. I learned a lot of things, and I really see that that you guys are going to be a source for me to be able to help clients with. And I'd like to thank everybody on the call as well. That have listened. And if you guys have further questions or something you want to talk about, don't hesitate to reach out. We'll be happy to connect you with Brandon directly, or something I can help you with. I'd be happy to do it. And again, thank you for spending your time with us today, and y'all have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, Philip and Christy.
All right. Good day.